Good morning. This is a different angle than I have ever done before. Usually I'm sitting on that side of the table and you guys are generally facing the same way, but I'm facing a different direction today. The windows are behind me. Today I am meal planning. So it is Monday morning and today's actually kind of a special day because I'm going to Hollywood Studios later to meet Justin and Lacey Zachman, and I'm really excited about it, but I have to do some errands this morning, including groceries. We have no food in the house. I need to make dog food this week, so I'm going to start meal planning, and I wanted to kind of share this process with you guys just because I like to make a list of groceries. This is a downloadable meal planning sheet, and I got this from Day Designer. So Day Designer is like a planner website company place. They make planners like this. This one's mine. And they do these free downloads, which I think is really cool. You have to, give them your email address and they email you the link. I'm blurry. Anyway, this weekly meal plan sheet is one of my favorites. I use it very frequently. I don't cook dinner every day of the week. I will cook dinner 3 or 4 days of the week. I tend to make big meals, meaning there are 3 of us in this house. We can all eat dinner, and then we still have leftovers that mom can take for lunch or that we will eat for lunch during the week. I love leftovers. I'm a big leftover fan. I know that's not a popular opinion. Anyway, I'm going to meal plan this week. I know that there are a couple of recipes that I want to make this week, so I just thought I would share this process with you guys. So this is the meal planning sheet, and this over here is the grocery list, which I think is really cool because you can plan out the meals that you're going to make on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday through Sunday, and then I like to add the groceries that I'm going to need for each one. I don't like to add everything that's on, like, let's say this recipe over here. Like, we have some ground beef in the freezer, so I don't put that on my shopping list unless I know that we're gonna need it. So anyway, today is Monday and I'm not making dinner tonight because I'm gonna be at Hollywood Studios tonight, probably for dinner, or maybe we'll pick something up on the way home. But my guess is we won't eat dinner at home. Emma's gonna have to make something on her own. Tuesday is tomorrow, so I know that I want to make butter chicken this week. And I know that I want to make something with Brussels sprouts this week. Butter chicken I have to marinate overnight, so I will start my butter chicken on Tuesday night. And then I will have butter chicken for dinner on Wednesday. And so this night we could do our Brussels sprout hash. So then I'm looking at Thursday, and there's one recipe that we were really excited about that I made a keto version from one of our cookbooks on my Instagram a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't like it at all. It was terrible. So this is Kung Pao shrimp. We could do shrimp or we could do chicken. I've done this with chicken before and it works just fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and scribble that in for Thursday. Kung Pao, and we could do chicken or shrimp. So that brings me to my grocery list, and I like to kind of sort things into dairy and meat and produce. And I do know we need milk and cream. I know we'll need chicken legs. For the butter chicken, we will need pork sausage. For the Brussels sprout hash, and we'll need Brussels sprouts. And mushrooms. And then, let's see, what do we need? So this is, I kind of start basically building out my grocery list and then I'll start looking at the specific ingredients. This calls for a bell pepper, which I know we don't have, but everything else on here, we have shrimp in the freezer. We could do shrimp or we could do chicken. I think we'll probably do shrimp for that. So I think I just need bell peppers for that recipe. And I know I'll need yogurt for the butter chicken recipe. Let's see what else. We have lemons. It always helps to have the recipe open and in front of you so you know that you're able to get everything that you need. We have bacon in the freezer, we have an onion, we have the sausage on the list. We have Dijon mustard, I have mushrooms on the list, I have Brussels sprouts on the list, and we have eggs. So that's everything for that one on the shopping list. Here's the butter chicken recipe. I have chicken on the list, yogurt, we have lemons, we have the spices, we have onion, ooh, ginger. We have tomato paste, we have chicken stock, we have butter, we have cream on the list, cilantro, and we'll need cauliflower rice. So this is what my grocery list is looking like right now. We're not gonna have dinner at home this night. So we will have dinner at home this night, and this night. And generally this makes enough leftovers to feed us for several days. And if we do shrimp this night, we won't have any leftovers at all. But this generally makes plenty of leftovers too. There's one other thing that I know I wanna make this week because of the leftovers. I found this keto lasagna recipe on the Delish website, and a lot of keto lasagna recipes call for like a cauliflower kind of noodle replacement, and this actually is cream cheese, eggs, mozzarella, and Parmesan in like as a noodle. And I made this on my Instagram, and I've made this twice, and I've loved it both times. So I definitely want to make this again because I made it and we had so many leftovers and it lasted literally weeks. So I'm gonna make this specifically for the leftovers, so I just need to add everything that we're gonna need to my grocery list. Now I'm gonna add what I need to make dog food. So this is my grocery list for today. This should get us through the week because we will have, like I said, leftovers from this day and this day to get us through like lunches for the rest of the week. Even if I do shrimp for this recipe and we end up not having any leftovers from this one, we're gonna be fine on meals. I am gonna go to the grocery store. I'm not gonna take you guys with me. You've been grocery shopping with me before, but this is our meal planning process. I know it's pretty simple, but I just wanted to share since I know that this video would be really short if I didn't include anything else. I am going to include a bonus recipe. I'm going to be making the keto lasagna and showing you how I make it. I love this lasagna. It's amazing. It's really easy. I've never really been a big fan of lasagna noodles just because I think they're really hard to cut. And like, let's say you have perfect lasagna, you're able to get a perfect slice out of your pan of lasagna and you put it on a plate and then you go to eat it and your noodles slide everywhere, and so your perfect piece of lasagna is now just like slop on a plate. I hate that, I hate it. But this one doesn't do that. It's really nice. So anyway, I'm going to be showing you how I make the keto lasagna. It's gonna be a different day, but I'm telling you now, I'm gonna do that. So you are gonna see a recipe card in just a couple of seconds, and then I will pick up the camera when I'm ready to make the keto lasagna and I will show you that process in a vlog. So you guys will see me in just a couple seconds. As promised, I'm here today in this video It's a different day, but I'm here and I'm gonna show you how I make my keto lasagna. There's no cauliflower in this because I kind of don't like cauliflower noodles. I just think that they don't taste right. These are made out of cheese and eggs, so they're delicious. So I'm gonna show you everything I've got set out, and then I'm just gonna kind of walk you through the recipe. So I have my ingredients grouped. This is actually gonna be a topping, so that'll go in later. I've got 2 bowls set aside. I have my printed recipe. You've already seen the recipe card in this video. I have my cheese, Parmesan and mozzarella, cream cheese, and then some eggs. This is what I'm gonna use to make my noodles. Then I've got my meat, my onion, my garlic, because this is what's gonna start the base of the meat sauce. Obviously we need some ground beef. And then the recipe calls for tomato paste. I like to use this sun-dried tomato pesto instead. I just think that this can be more flavorful than plain tomato paste, and it fulfills the same purpose. It just injects an extra shot of tomato flavor into the sauce, so I like to use this instead. I found this at TJ Maxx for $4.99, and honestly, it's a pretty big jar, so kind of love that. I also have some marinara sauce, and I've got 2 jars. I think I'm gonna need both of them because I am doubling this recipe just because it's so good and I love the leftovers. They're great to keep in the freezer. Finally, I've got some ricotta cheese, and then back here I have some green pesto. So this is homemade pesto. I made this, or Mom made this last summer. One of us made it, doesn't matter who, but this is homemade pesto, and I like to put this in with my ricotta cheese because I really like the flavor of the basil in the ricotta. Kind of thins out the ricotta just a little bit so it's easier to spread onto the lasagna. So this is everything I'm going to be using except for some seasonings, and I do have a stick of butter back there so that I can get my onion started cooking, but I am ready to get this lasagna going. Since I'm doubling the recipe, I need 4 cups of shredded mozzarella, and I'm using this brick of low moisture mozzarella that I got from Target. The Good & Gather brand is actually my favorite. And I'm going to just grate this whole thing into this bowl because this is going to be almost exactly how much I need. And remember, we're melting this, so it doesn't have to be perfectly grated. If like chunks like this come off, it's not a big deal. We're going to try to melt it all down. We're just not going to melt this great big brick the way that it is. Next, I'm going to have 1 cup of grated Parmesan, and obviously I am doubling this recipe, so if you're only gonna make a 9x9 inch pan of this, whoops, then you won't need to double it. But honestly, for us, it goes by, it disappears really quick. And then on top of this, before we put it into the microwave, goes the cream cheese. All right, I've got 3 kinds of cheeses in here. I've got my shredded mozzarella on the bottom, then my grated Parmesan, and then my 2 bricks of cream cheese on the top. One more time, I am doubling this recipe. If you have a small family, if you don't like lasagna very much, if you just want to try this, you know, one time and make the regular amount, I recommend doing that just to see if you like it. But I know we love it, so I'm doubling this, and I'm gonna make a 9x13 inch pan of this, and maybe another little freezer pan to put in the freezer, like a whole pan of it. I don't know. We'll see what's left. But this goes into the microwave until it's all melty. So I'm gonna put this in the microwave for about 4 minutes. I say 4 minutes. It would probably take a little bit longer than that, but I don't want it to burn. I know that that cream cheese will melt pretty quick. So I want to check on it after 4 minutes and stir it and see where it's at. And then if it needs more time, I will give it some more time. We want it to be melty, but we want it all to be mixed together thoroughly, so you don't want to melt the cream cheese on top to the point where it won't mix with anything else, you know. So I'm just gonna give it a couple minutes in there, and then I'll stir it, check on it, and then give it more time because we want it to be thoroughly melted. While I'm waiting for the cheese mixture in the microwave to melt, I'm gonna go ahead and mix up my ricotta mixture. So I've got another great big bowl to mix it up in, and I'm gonna put my ricotta in this bowl just to so I can stir it around and loosen it up. Because I love ricotta, but it's kind of thick and pasty. Some of them are different. Some of them might be a little more wet, a little more runny, but this one's pretty thick and pasty. And I have found that it tears the noodles if I spread it on like this, which is why I like to thin it out a little with some pesto. All right, I'm gonna add maybe 3 or 4 tablespoons of pesto. I'm not gonna put this whole bag in. And if you don't like pesto, maybe just do like garlic salt or something in here and maybe a little bit of cream to loosen it up. But I really like the injection of basil flavor that I get from putting some pesto in with the ricotta. And you don't want the ricotta to be runny, but it was sort of like toothpaste consistency earlier, and I want it to be a little more spreadable than that. And this, honestly, is just about perfect. So now I'm gonna set this aside until we're ready to build. So this is ready to go. So our cheese just came out of the microwave. This is after 4 minutes in there. It's a little steamy and it's definitely melty. Time to try to stir it together. Ooh. Okay, honestly, pretty close. Not quite there yet because the Parmesan needs a little more time, but I have one more thing I need to do before we're ready to put the eggs in here anyway, so I'm gonna give this a couple more minutes in the microwave, but just 2 this time. And while that's in there, I'm gonna get my pans ready so we can bake our noodles. So I've got my pans and I have parchment paper. You wanna make sure that it's not wax paper, but parchment paper, because we're gonna bake our noodles on top of this. I've cut them longer so that they can go all the way up the wall and then maybe have a little bit more of a lip, just because we don't want the noodles to slip around this and like ooze out, because that would just make it really difficult to get our noodles out of the pan. Then I'm going to spray these with cooking spray. We really don't want these to stick. All right, I'm gonna move these out of the way because I think our noodle mixture is nearly ready. It is bubbly and it looks, oh, it's slippery. It looks like it's ready. Oh yeah, definitely ready, because it's loose and sort of stringy, but not really stringy. This is just perfect. Okay. Now comes the fun part. Now we have to add eggs. It's gonna take a lot of elbow grease to try to get the eggs incorporated into this, because this is still pretty stiff. You gotta do it, okay? It's gonna take some elbow grease, it's gonna take some work, but it's totally worth it. So, I'm gonna add my eggs now, and I need 6 of them since I'm doubling this recipe. I'm gonna start with 3 and see if I can work these in, and maybe the other 3 will work in easier. Also, the oven is preheating to 350 degrees. All right. Halfway there. Okay, if you do it right, it shouldn't be really stringy. You should be able to scoop out some without it like pulling in like strings, like string cheese. Like I said, take some elbow grease, you know, that last little bit of egg sometimes doesn't want to work in, but just keep working at it. You might have to switch to something other than like a silicone spatula. I don't like to create additional dishes, so I just use this because this is what I'm going to use to spread it out onto the pan. But it works for me. But if you have trouble with it, maybe switch to like a whisk or maybe even like a wooden spoon, because it would have a little more friction and it might make it stir together a little bit easier for you. But I haven't had any trouble with the spatula. So now I'm gonna get my pans back over here. I have two, and one is a little bit bigger than the other, and I'm going to put more of this mixture into this pan because it is bigger. And now we just want to spread the noodle mixture out all the way to the corners, because you want big sheets, because this is what you're going to cut into your lasagna noodles. This is why you want to make sure that your eggs are thoroughly combined in here, because this will make it spreadable and not elastic and stretchy. If you don't thoroughly combine your eggs in there and your cheese is still stretchy, you'll never be able to stretch it out and make it fill up the whole pan. It's just not going to work. And you want it to be as even as possible, as smooth as possible, so that it cooks all at the same time. Once you get your pans of noodles even and spread out and you're happy with them, they go into the oven at 350 Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. You don't want to let them burn, so check them at 15 minutes, and if they're getting golden brown, you're happy with them, take them out. Next, I've got an onion that I'm going to dice up fairly small, and then I will show you how I use my grate plate to grate my garlic. If you really don't like onion, like my sister does not like onion at all, you could very easily grate your onion on a box grater, sort of like you grated your cheese. And I will show you that with half of this onion. So if you like your knife skills and you're happy with them and you think they're fine, then use your knife. But if you don't like your knife skills and you want your onion cut up really small, just grate it with your grater. Since we're putting this in a sauce, it really doesn't matter what it looks like. You just want it to be cut up pretty small, because you don't want huge chunks of bitter onion in with your sauce in your lasagna. That wouldn't be tasty. So there's our onion. Like that. Ta-da! For the garlic, I'm gonna bring you a little bit closer to my grate plate and where I'm working. So I'm breaking up my bulb of garlic, and I'm gonna give you some garlic tips, okay? The larger the clove of garlic, the less concentrated the flavor. So large cloves of garlic are actually less garlicky than little ones. So this guy is gonna be more mild than this guy because of the size, okay? This guy is small and this guy is huge, so this guy's gonna be more mild. This guy's gonna be a little bit more hot, okay? Older garlic cloves, not mushy ones, but older garlic cloves will actually peel easier than fresh ones. Fresh ones, their jackets are really tight, and the older ones, their jackets are a little bit loose. Some of them might have split in a couple of places, so they're a lot easier to peel. Like this guy, you see how, do you see how he's got a split right here? That just means you can peel his jacket off almost in like one piece. Now let's talk about the grate plate. You can find these on Amazon. Search for like a grate plate or a rasp plate. Maybe I'll link one down below. It is like a ceramic plate. This is dishwasher safe. So it's got these little bumps in it. These little lines that you're seeing are actually divots, and they're little it's a little bit rough. You know, you can rub your finger on it, it's finger safe. You're not gonna hurt yourself with this. So if you have kids that wanna help you in the kitchen and you don't wanna give them like a box grater because it can be really rough, something like this might hurt their fingers, but something like this is really safe. So to grate your garlic, you take your little garlic clove. I hold the base of the garlic clove that was, you know, like the big chunky piece that no one wants to eat. This is what I hold in my hand, okay? So I don't grate that. That's what I use as like my grip to hold the garlic clove. So then I have my grate plate, and you can rub back and forth. You could go around in circles, and it grates really easy. See? So there are lots of uses for this plate. You could grate nutmeg, you could do like cinnamon sticks or chocolate, but garlic is what I use the most. And then when I get down to that base, I throw it away. I don't keep it, I don't save it, I don't use it for anything else. And then if it's covered in garlic, you take your little brush, and I brush inwards around the circle to kind of scoop that garlic up into the middle, okay? So that's how I get that garlic all together. And then I'll just move on and grate some more. Now it's time to get our sauce going. So I've got a great big skillet, and I'm gonna get this going on like medium heat-ish, and I'm gonna put some butter in here. Meanwhile, the timer on our noodle sheets just went off, and it looks like the top one is done. So I'm gonna get this guy out because he's just starting to turn golden brown. This one on the bottom looks like he still needs some time, so I'm gonna let him have 5 more minutes, I think. But I'm gonna pull this guy right out of the pan onto the countertop just to let it cool. All right, butter has melted, so I'm going to toss in my onion. And we're gonna cook this until it's soft and sweet. So I'm gonna let it cook maybe 5 minutes. I don't like hot onions in my lasagna. I just think that it distracts from the lasagna goodness. We need that yummy, sweet onion flavor, not the bitter, harsh, stingy onion flavor. If you want to cook your onions for a little bit longer without burning them, without risking burning them, you could always add a couple tablespoons of water to this, which is what I think I'm going to do to these. So I'm just going to give them a little shot of water. And then generally, once the water cooks out, the onions are done. I just think sometimes they can require a little extra love, a little extra time. And so adding that extra shot of water in there gives them a little more time on the heat without burning. Meanwhile, our noodle sheet on the bottom is done, so I'm gonna get that out of the oven. Golden and delicious. All right, I'm gonna go get a new camera battery. When I come back, we'll be all set to add the beef. I almost forgot about the garlic. So I gotta add the garlic now. And since I had it in that great big wad in the middle of the plate, it just all came out all at once. I'm gonna gently warm this. I have dropped the heat on the pan because I, again, don't wanna burn the garlic. We just wanna kinda get it started cooking. So just a little bit of time on the heat. Kind of break it up in there. All right. Now I'm gonna add my ground beef. And I have about 2 pounds of ground beef since I am, again, doubling this recipe. So if I was not, I would use half of this amount of ground beef. I'm gonna break this up. and get that cooked. Our ground beef is nearly completely cooked. There's a little bit of pink left in there, but I want to talk for a second about this recipe. It tells you to add your tomato paste with the onions before you add your beef. I don't like doing that, mostly because it also tells you to drain your beef after you've got the beef cooked. So you add the tomato paste and then you cook the beef in the onions and the tomato paste mixture, and then you drain it off, and I just don't think that you're gonna get to keep much of that tomato flavor anyway if you drain it off. So I like to add my tomato after, and of course I'm talking about my tomato pesto because I'm using this instead of the tomato paste. But I like to add that after I've already drained my beef, just because I don't like to see that flavor go down the, well, technically it doesn't go down the drain, but it goes into the trash. So I hate to see that. So now I'm going to drain my beef, and then I'll bring it back to the pan, and that's when I will add my tomato pesto. All right, we've drained and we're back. Honestly, if you use a lower fat kind of beef, like I used 80-20. If you're using 90-10, you probably won't have to drain it at all just because it's so lean. But I used 80-20 and it needed to be drained because it was really soupy. So now I'm gonna get my tomato pesto, and I need a couple of tablespoons of this. One, and I'll do another one. I want to get that started warming up. Oh, and it smells so good. All right, now, since I've got that started heating up, and it's not tomato paste. If it was tomato paste, I would want to definitely cook it, just because I think tomato paste can taste like the can that it came in. This is technically already cooked. It's prepared and it tastes good, smells good, so it's ready to go. So this doesn't require as much time on like direct heat as tomato paste would, which is another reason why I like to use this instead. But I've got that thoroughly mixed in, so I'm going to add my sauce now. Here's one. And now we just want to heat this thoroughly. So we're going to try to warm it up. It doesn't need to boil because the sauce is already cooked, the meat's already cooked, everything's cooked. We just want it to be hot so that when it goes into the oven it doesn't take as much time to heat everything because it's already heated. We have our sheets of noodles, and I'm just going to make sure that they are loose under there, and it feels like they are. Yep, okay, so you know about the size of a lasagna noodle, so just cut lasagna shaped noodles out of these sheets. So I will cut it this way and then cut it once in half. And they don't have to be perfect. Mine almost never are. In fact, I don't know that I've ever had them perfect. All right, we have our noodles, and our sauce is still heating, so I'm going to get my pans ready so I can assemble my lasagnas. I am ready to build my lasagna, so I'm going to start with some sauce. Where's my cup? And I'm not measuring this, but I put some sauce on the bottom just to keep the noodles from sticking, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You just want it to be saucy on the bottom. Also, this pan has been sprayed with cooking spray, just again to keep things from sticking. So we've got sauce. Next go the noodles. Like I said, they're not perfect, but they are good enough for me. And if they don't fit perfectly, you can always tear them or cut them to make them fit, just like this one here. So that's fine. Next is a layer of ricotta. And again, you want this to be spreadable, and I like to dollop it on sort of in, you know, sections, so that when I smear it around, I'm not tearing up my noodles, because these noodles are sort of fragile. So that's why I add the pesto to the ricotta. I think it makes it easier for this ricotta to be spread. All right, next goes more sauce. And we'll spread this out. And repeat the layers. So, next goes some noodles. We're gonna have some more ricotta. More sauce. And spread. That is that lasagna done. I could put another layer probably. I'm not going to, just because the last time I did it, it bubbled over and it was sort of an epic fail. So I'm gonna set this aside. Then I'm gonna build one in this, so I can put this in the freezer. Okay, they're ready for some cheese topping. And since I'm only baking 2 of these, this one that went in the foil pan is not going into the oven yet. I'm just gonna sprinkle some Parmesan cheese on the other 2. Now, these 2 are gonna go into the oven. I've still got it on set at 350. It's gonna bake for about half an hour. The other one, this guy, I'm gonna cover in plastic wrap and foil and then put the lid on, and then I'm gonna put this in the freezer. I'm gonna make sure it sits flat, and I'm gonna Sharpie on top of the lid the baking instructions, just because it might be nice to have one in the freezer that's ready to go. So all I have to do is bake it to reheat it, and then it's done. Okay, the lasagnas came out of the oven just a second ago, and honestly, they're still a little bit bubbly. I'm gonna let them cool completely before I portion them out. The reason I made so much was because we love to have pre-portioned meals in the fridge and in the freezer that are ready for us to eat, like at a moment's notice. We like to have food ready to go just because when we're hungry, we want to eat now. We don't want to have to cook something and make a mess in the kitchen. We want to eat now when we're hungry. So I made these so we could have food for lunch, for dinner, for like impromptu meals. So these are all going to be pre-portioned out into like little Tupperware containers, sorry, Rubbermaid containers, whatever. But I did put one lasagna in the freezer, and one of these I'm gonna have a snack in like an hour because I'm hungry and this smells fantastic. Anyway, that is going to be the end of this vlog. I really hope you try to make this lasagna sometime because I love it. I think it's so tasty and really pretty easy. It's a lasagna, so it's kind of labor intense, but I love it. I can't stop making it. I mean, we ran out of our lasagna leftovers last week. Had to make more this week just because I don't know that I ever want to live without this ever again. I think my mom prefers this lasagna to a traditional lasagna because she's not a fan of the slippery lasagna noodles. These aren't quite so slippery and she likes these better. So, I mean, take that as you will. But I hope you try this, and if you do, let me know in a comment if you like it or not, and you will see me in another vlog really, really soon.